And now back to New York Tonight.
Joining me tonight is Allan Bonner, an expert in risk management and author of Doing and Saying the Right Thing. Thank you for joining us, Allan. You are the only North American with a master's degree in risk, crisis, and disaster management.
Yeah, the analogy that I like to use is if I had been a worker on a medieval cathedral, I could do my own risk-benefit analysis. I mean, I might fall off the scaffolding, I might hit my thumb with a hammer, I might get a stone chip in my eye, but I was pretty accurate in defining my risk. After the nuclear and chemical and aviation age, where people can fly all over the world with weapons in a suitcase that are relatively undetected, risk is everywhere. We all bear risks as we walk down the street. There's no free lunch. If you decide to take the subway to work versus a cab versus walking versus a bicycle versus rollerblading, there is a certain amount of risk to every one of those activities, and it has to be managed. The phrase that I like is concentric circles of security, ever broadening zones where we are safer and more knowledgeable. So it's not just your office or your floor or your building or your block or your section of Manhattan or even the whole island. You have to have security and risk analysis measures getting out very broadly, and I think we're beginning to see all over the world to analyze how safe we are. Let me give you an example of something we did a month before September 11th near here. We ran a scenario where we said, what if somebody tries to rent a plane, one of your planes, and drive it into the White House for some political purpose? And they said, well, that wouldn't happen. And I said, well, why not? Well, first of all, they'd lose their deposit. And second of all, they'd kill themselves. And I said, well, I've got news for you. Tens of thousands of people around the world might be willing to lose their deposit, and hundreds would be willing to die. People have to realize when they build or own the tallest building in the world or a very special landmark building like the Empire State Building, they are also owning some risk. Architects and engineers design risk into a project, and owners of buildings own some risk. You did a risk-benefit analysis this morning when you came to work. If you drove, you looked at an orange light and you said, yeah, I think I can get through. Is that pedestrian going to cross? Can I make the bus if I run for it? Can I make this subway train if I run for it? Those are all risk analyses. There is something called, here's a technical term for you, male ego, where people think, well, it can't happen here, or it can't happen to me, or it can't happen in this company, and it can. And focusing on the possibility of risk and the possibility of crisis is probably among the most important things I do. I think we learned that the chain of command in response and the civilian oversight of the chain of command has a very serious responsibility to make sure that we are sending people like firefighters, police officers, medics, and others out into the field with the best possible, most modern techniques and kit imaginable. Let me take a look at something in the military. The bayonet was standard issue for hundreds of years. In fact, the bayonet was standard issue for at least 100 years after it had any usefulness. There were very few bayonet wounds in the Civil War, very few bayonet wounds in World War I or World War II, yet people kept yelling, fix bayonets and charge. Old generals in the back of the field would yell charge when men were standing chest high in mud in World War I. So we have to take a look at where do you set up your command post when a building is on fire? Under what circumstances does a firefighter run back into that building? Certainly property cannot be considered anywhere near as important as human life.